In this episode, we start with three ideas that shape how security decisions are made: non-repudiation, least privilege, and trust. These terms can sound abstract when you first hear them, but they connect to very practical questions. Can someone deny that they approved a transaction, sent a message, or changed a record? Does a person, device, or application have more access than it really needs? Should a system trust a request just because it came from a familiar user or a known device? These questions matter because security is not only about keeping attackers out. It is also about making actions traceable, keeping access limited, and deciding when trust should be granted. If you understand these ideas early, you will have a stronger foundation for identity, access control, logging, auditing, zero trust, and incident response. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is part of our companion study series. The first book is a detailed study guide that explains the exam and helps you prepare for it with confidence. The second is a Kindle-only ebook with 1,000 flashcards you can use on your mobile device or Kindle for quick review. You can find both at Cyber.Me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Non-repudiation means there is reliable proof that an action happened and that a specific identity was responsible for it. The word repudiation means denial, so non-repudiation is about making denial difficult. If someone approves a payment, signs a document, sends an important message, or changes a sensitive setting, the organization may need evidence that ties the action back to that person or system. That evidence could come from digital signatures, audit logs, timestamps, identity controls, or transaction records. The goal is not to accuse people by default. The goal is to create trustworthy records when important actions occur. Without non-repudiation, someone could claim that they did not approve a transaction, did not send a message, or did not make a change, and the organization might have no strong way to prove what happened. You already deal with the basic idea of non-repudiation in everyday life. When you sign a receipt, approve a banking transaction, submit a form, or use a secure account to accept terms, there is usually a record that connects your identity to that action. In cybersecurity, the same idea becomes more formal because digital activity can be easier to deny or harder to interpret without good records. A message can be forwarded. A password can be shared. A system account can perform actions automatically. That is why proof has to be stronger than a casual assumption. A strong non-repudiation design asks whether the identity was verified, whether the action was recorded, whether the record can be trusted, and whether the evidence can show that the action was not changed afterward. Digital signatures are one of the clearest ways to support non-repudiation. A digital signature is not just a typed name at the bottom of a message. It uses cryptography to connect an identity to data in a way that can be verified later. If the signed data changes, the signature should no longer validate. If the signature is valid, it helps show that the holder of the private key approved or created that signed item. This depends heavily on protecting private keys, because a stolen private key can undermine trust. Digital signatures can support software updates, secure messages, documents, and transactions. You do not need to know every technical detail yet. What matters here is the purpose. A digital signature helps prove both who was connected to the action and whether the signed content stayed intact. Logs and audit trails also support non-repudiation, but only when they are designed and protected well. A log that records sign-ins, file changes, administrative actions, or approvals can help show what happened. But a weak log may not be enough if it can be changed by the same person being investigated, if the system clock is wrong, if accounts are shared, or if important actions are not recorded. Good evidence needs integrity. It should be difficult to alter without detection. It should include useful details, such as the account used, the time of the action, the system involved, and the action taken. When you hear about accounting and authentication, authorization, and accounting, AAA, this is part of the reason it matters. Security needs records that can support accountability. Least privilege is the idea that a person, device, application, or service should have only the access needed to perform its required function. No more, no less. This principle matters because extra access becomes extra risk. If your account only needs to read a file, it should not be able to delete that file. If an application only needs access to one database, it should not have access to every database. If a service only needs to perform one task, it should not run with broad administrative power. Least privilege does not assume that everyone is malicious. It assumes that mistakes happen, accounts get compromised, software has bugs, and access can be misused. Limiting access reduces the damage when something goes wrong. You can think of least privilege as giving someone the right key for the right door, not a master key for the entire building. If a maintenance worker needs access to one room, giving access to every office, storage room, and records area would be excessive. The same idea applies in digital systems. A user who needs to submit timesheets does not need control over payroll settings. A help desk worker who resets passwords may not need to read confidential legal files. A web application that displays product information may not need permission to change financial records. Broad access may feel convenient in the moment, but convenience can become dangerous. The more an account can do, the more damage an attacker or mistake can cause through that account. Least privilege also changes over time. Access that was appropriate last year may be too much today. A person may change jobs, move to a new team, finish a project, or leave the organization. A service may no longer need the same connection it once used. A temporary permission may accidentally become permanent. That is why access reviews matter. They help confirm that permissions still match real needs. Without review, access tends to grow. People get added to groups, given exceptions, assigned special permissions, and rarely removed from them later. This slow buildup is sometimes called privilege creep. It is risky because it gives attackers more opportunity and gives ordinary users more ability to make damaging mistakes. Least privilege is not a one-time setting. It is an ongoing discipline. There is a balance you need to understand with least privilege. If access is too broad, risk increases. If access is too narrow or poorly managed, people may not be able to do their work. Security should reduce unnecessary risk without creating constant friction for normal tasks. The goal is not to make every action difficult. The goal is to make access appropriate. That may mean using roles, groups, approval processes, temporary elevation, or separate accounts for sensitive tasks. A regular account might be used for everyday work, while an administrative account is used only when higher privilege is truly needed. This helps reduce exposure. If the everyday account is compromised, the attacker does not automatically receive the highest level of control. Trust decisions connect closely to both non-repudiation and least privilege. Every access request involves some level of trust. A user signs in and the system decides whether the identity proof is good enough. A device connects and the system decides whether the device should be allowed. An application requests data and another system decides whether that request fits the rules. A service account performs an automated action and the environment decides whether that action should be accepted. Security problems often happen when systems trust too easily. A familiar username does not always mean the real person is in control. A known device may be infected. An internal network location may not be safe. A trusted application may have been misconfigured or abused. Modern security tries to make trust more conditional. That means trust is based on signals, context, and limits, not blind assumption. You may be asked for multi-factor authentication, MFA, because a password alone is not enough proof. A device may need to meet health requirements before it can access sensitive resources. A user may be allowed to reach one application, but not another. A system may allow normal access from a usual location, but challenge or block access from a risky location. These decisions are not about being suspicious for no reason. They are about recognizing that credentials, devices, applications, and networks can all be compromised. Trust should be earned through evidence and limited to the access that makes sense. Trust decisions affect applications and systems just as much as people. A background service may connect to a database. A cloud application may call another service. An automated process may move files, create accounts, or trigger alerts. Each of those actions requires some kind of identity and permission. If a service account has too much access, an attacker who compromises it may gain a powerful path through the environment. If systems trust each other without checking identity, one compromised system may be able to fool another. This is why machine identities, service permissions, certificates, keys, and logs matter. You are not only protecting human sign-ins. You are also protecting the quiet system-to-system activity that keeps modern environments running. These ideas come together during an investigation. Imagine an important file was deleted, a payment was approved, or an administrative setting was changed. Non-repudiation asks whether there is proof of who performed the action. Least privilege asks whether that identity should have had the power to do it in the first place. Trust decisions ask whether the system should have accepted the request under those conditions. Maybe the account had too much access. Maybe the sign-in came from an unusual location. Maybe no MFA challenge appeared. Maybe logs show the action, but the account was shared, which weakens accountability. Security improves when these questions can be answered clearly. If the organization cannot answer them, it has a visibility and control problem. One misunderstanding is that trust means believing people are good or bad. In security, trust is not a personal judgment. It is a controlled decision about access. A trusted user can still make a mistake. A trusted device can still be infected. A trusted application can still be misused. A trusted network can still contain an attacker. That is why trust should be limited and monitored. Another misunderstanding is that least privilege shows a lack of confidence in people. It does not. It protects people and organizations by reducing the consequences of mistakes, compromise, and confusion. Non-repudiation, least privilege, and trust decisions are not about creating a hostile environment. They are about creating a safer environment where important actions are controlled, recorded, and easier to understand. The conclusion is that non-repudiation, least privilege, and trust decisions help you think about security in a more precise way. Non-repudiation gives you proof that important actions can be tied to an identity and trusted later. Least privilege keeps access limited, so one mistake or compromise does not create unnecessary damage. Trust decisions help systems decide whether users, devices, applications, and services should be allowed to do what they are requesting right now. These ideas show up across identity, access control, logging, cloud security, zero trust, and incident response. As you continue studying, keep asking who is taking the action, what they are allowed to do, why the system trusts the request, and what evidence will exist afterward. Those questions will help you understand both exam scenarios and real security decisions.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit DailyCyber.News.